Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast. And over the past few weeks, we've talked a lot about Xbox and their potential next generation strategy. This idea that their next generation platform is going to be a PC wrapped into a console-like experience, similar to the Steam Deck or Steam machines. And, well, that's starting to sound a lot more realistic. In fact, we actually got even more information today that they're going to do something wildly different than what you would expect from a console manufacturer. Now, whether this will pay off for them in the long run, I think that depends a lot about how they execute this strategy, but stick around and we'll get into all of that today. We do have plenty of other things to talk about though, so let's just go and get things kicked off with PlayStation and Helldivers 2. You know, this was a breakout hit for them earlier in the year and easily Sony's most successful live service project to date. So with that, Sony's now fully committing to its future. Early on, it almost kind of felt like its success maybe blindsided them a little bit. They weren't exactly prepared with its PSN Steam requirement, and, you know, that caused a lot of controversy online. But now that they've axed Concord, you know, they don't have to worry about giving that game a budget anymore. So it seems like they're shifting their live service focus to the more deserved Helldivers 2 with some new crossover content and also a new limited edition controller. Of course, we talked about the Killzone 2 collaboration a few days back, which I'm absolutely pumped to see the return for that franchise. Glad to see it get some recognition. And now, Helldivers 2 is also getting a brand new limited edition controller. You can see it here, and I mean, I think it looks pretty good. It's not necessarily my favorite design that they've done. I do prefer their recent 30th anniversary and Astrobot controllers. I think those designs just look absolutely amazing. But I do still like the yellow and black combination that we're seeing here. And, I mean, if you're a big fan of Helldivers 2, then you might be interested to add this one to your collection. Its pre-orders are live now on PlayStation Direct for $85, and it'll release on February 6th. My ultimate takeaway here, though, is just that Helldivers 2 has a bright future ahead of it with plenty of things planned going forward. Now, speaking of PlayStation, an old Vita game is coming back in the form of a remaster, and quite soon at that. Apparently, Freedom Wars Remastered will release next month on January 10th for PlayStation, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you don't know what this game is, it's often compared to the Monster Hunter series. It's set in more of a futuristic dystopian world, and it's also faster paced. But if you like the overall Monster Hunter formula, then Freedom Wars might be up your alley. It sounds like this version will be a lot better than the original. One of the biggest complaints that the original had was its difficulty spikes, but the good news here is that it seems like they've addressed that in the remaster. You can see on their website where they said, Freedom Wars Remastered brings enhancements such as 4K resolution, upgraded textures, and 60 FPS performance on PlayStation and PC, an overhauled weapon crafting system, and other gameplay upgrades, as well as adding difficulty settings. So, I mean, if anything else here, I'm glad that this remaster exists for no other reason than the fact that it gets it off of the Vita and gives it an opportunity to maybe reach more people. Now, I think the timing of its release probably isn't really the greatest with Monster Hunter Wilds right around the corner, but I hope we get more remasters from the Vita down the line. The Vita actually has a shockingly good library for such a failed console, and that's why so many people, including myself, cherishes the Vita just so much. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have the same good news for Unicorn Overlord. Unicorn Overlord received quite a fan following when it released earlier this year for being one of the most unique games out there, and as you'd expect from Vanillaware, it's also a very high-quality product. Unfortunately, though, that's not the only thing that Vanillaware is necessarily known for, because, historically, they're not the best company when it comes to business decisions. Apparently, they learn from their publisher, being Atlas, because they're one of those studios that makes great games, but still, for whatever reason, stays under the radar because they don't extend their reach quite far enough. Well, about that. They just announced that they have no intentions to port Unicorn Overlord to PC at this time, which, I mean, PC has a growing community for JRPGs. It really feels like a perfect fit, especially with something like the Steam Deck OLED. I think this would be an amazing game for that platform. So again, it's kind of expected coming from Vanillaware out of all companies, but I still think that this is a rather poor decision. It's basically them saying, hey, I hate money. Okay, so let's go talk about this ever-evolving Xbox strategy. I mean, it almost feels like they change it by the day sometimes, but it seems like we're starting to uncover some of what they want to do for their next generation platform. I know there's been this question about whether or not they'll even do a new console because of their more multi-platform-esque strategy. Will they completely transition to third-party by next generation? But by all indication, they seem 100% committed to their hardware. They've confirmed that multiple times already, and I've explained this before. They kind of have to be. They have a lot of Xbox Game Pass subscribers, more than 30 million, and a large portion of those subscribers are on their consoles. So unless they can put Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation or Nintendo, which doesn't really seem likely, well then yeah, their console business is kind of important to them. So with that in mind, they need to find a way to keep their subscribers invested for the future. And there's really only a few ways for them to do that. They'll either need to transition their console user base to PC or to a new console to stave off the eventual PlayStation 6. Well, what if they just combine those two strategies into one? What if they just make a PC wrapped into a console-like experience similar to what Steam is doing with the Steam OS? This is the question that I've talked about at great length these past 2 weeks, and in order to do that, basically Xbox would need to create an Xbox OS that would work on top of PC. In other words, when you turn on the next Xbox, it'll boot up just the way that your current Xbox consoles already do. But the difference here is that it could also have the ability to switch modes to access PC. And what that would do is that would theoretically give consumers the ability to play on other PC stores like Steam as one such example. This is basically how the Steam OS operates over top of Linux on something like the Steam Deck. And that could potentially be an inspiration for Team Xbox. Xbox is kind of in a unique position of being a PC-first company, so this is something that they could technically work on. In fact, we've already heard Jez Corden claim that the next Xbox has a heavy Windows slant to it. And he also recently claimed this: Microsoft is reacting to this trend by talking about putting Steam and Epic Games Store onto future Xbox consoles. It's reacting to this by investing a huge amount into improving Windows gaming performance, as well as its usability on devices like the Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion Go. Microsoft is also known to be building its own Xbox handheld. Sources tell us that Microsoft is also working on a set of in-game APIs and user interface features called Project Rainway, which is some form of cross-platform Xbox guide menu. Well, now, we can also add even more information to this idea, because just today, Windows Central said this: we've heard that Microsoft is exploring options around letting third parties build Xbox-branded devices, something that could extend as far as letting them directly use the Xbox operating system. These third-party Xbox devices could appeal to specific niches, providing a number of options with audiences or markets that Microsoft has previously struggled in. In this event, a hypothetical Xbox-branded handheld from a developer like Asus would actually be an Xbox, providing players access to the same library of games and the same services that they can use when playing on an Xbox Series X or S console. Now, this article is specifically referring to third-party handhelds, but we are once again hearing that Microsoft is contemplating licensing out an Xbox OS to third-party companies. And this takes me back to what I keep saying. It all comes down to their execution and what they can actually manage to do with this idea. If Microsoft manages to make an Xbox OS that works on PC, that would be a huge development, because it could help them carve their own identity as a console manufacturer. It would basically be a PC wrapped into a console-like experience. And I think that would actually draw some legitimate interest. The idea that Xbox could combine your Steam library, which includes, yes, some PlayStation games as well, your Xbox library, and even Game Pass on a single console-like platform, I mean, that could be a very enticing option for fans because of just how much it has to offer. It would really be the best of both worlds, a console and PC-like experience wrapped into one. Now, it remains to be seen if they can actually pull off an idea like this, but the one thing that we've heard multiple times is that they will license out an Xbox OS to third-party companies. Jez Corden mentioned this. This new Windows Central article mentioned the same thing. And even the infamous Discord leak from earlier this year, which has proven to be shockingly accurate, said a very similar thing. If you haven't already seen this leak, check this out. This was back in January, and a random person out of nowhere just dropped a ton of alleged information. And you know what? I'll just kind of read through some of it here. They said Xbox will probably announce their multi-platform plans late next month or right before the fiscal year ends, which happened. They also said, I guess Xbox is just fully going multi-platform and more third-party-ish. A few of the later stuff they originally planned as exclusives have been completely swapped for multi-platform releases, and also in talks with some manufacturers to make their version of Xbox consoles. Yeah, only their consoles, like how they're third-party controllers. These are pretty much going to be official third-party consoles that can run Xbox games. That's what we're currently talking about now. They also said id Software's next game is no longer an Xbox exclusive and will be multi-platform, which turned out to be true. That was Doom: The Dark Ages. They also gave us some information about Indiana Jones and how Harrison Ford was going to be the voice actor and that it was going to be a first-person game, including whip combat. Again, a lot of this information turned out to be true. And because they mentioned those third-party Xbox consoles like we keep talking about, this only adds to the mystique that, yes, Xbox might be licensing out their operating system for next generation. So it seems like there's a lot of smoke to this rumor. And I mean, if anything else, if all of this turns out to be true, in a way, this could do away with console generations, or at least for Xbox. Instead of being forced to wait 8 years to upgrade to the next console, you'd basically be able to buy into the price point that you want to anytime a new variant becomes available. Do you want a $500 mid-range console that Xbox might release? Or do you want that ultra-powerful $1,000 plus option from ROG? That could be in the cards with this strategy. But let me know what you all think about this. Do you all like the idea that Xbox could license out their OS to third parties next generation? Or do you think that this is a bad idea and that it'll blow up in Xbox's face? Let me hear your reasoning in the comments below. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and peace out.